What's up, big folk, man? This your boy Maz. Now, today we got a video by Dark Brandon, and shout out to Dark Brandon. We got a video about some token Asian dude named Charlie Cheon. You know, this guy's always bootlicking and seeking white approval. So let's get into it.
Hey there, folks. Hope you're doing well today. We just arrived at the inevitable moment that was on the horizon, where people like Charlie, who has a YouTube channel, we've featured him on the past, a Korean immigrant who's been making the case for white nationalists, took it one step further. Again, making a case for white nationalists, but this time making a plea, saying, hey, I think I'm one of the good ones. Can I stay? And that was literally the name of the title of the video he published today. Can I stay, white nationalists? Let's take a look.
What I'm trying to say is, I think I've proven myself to be one of the good ones, so I guess I deserve to stay. And
Oh my God, man. I mean, no kind of dignity whatsoever. Just seeking white approval. I mean, that you really put yourself in a weak position. Guys, let me tell you something. Shout out to all my Asian people out there that's standing on business. Once again, shout out to all the Asian people out there that's standing on business. I know guys like this has to be a disgrace to y'all because black people, these black MAGAs, they are a disgrace to black people. Then again, you know, I've actually talked to a white nationalist before, and people like this, they'll use them, but they'll never trust them. You will never be part of them. And that's what he told me. So for him to be around here bootlicking and seeking white approval, dude, you'll never be white. You'll never be one of them. And you will never escape white supremacy.
secondly, if we're so preoccupied, concerned with the rise of white nationalism, it's a crisis, Baby, stop attacking white people every chance you get. I don't know what to tell you.
Now, that clip was...
Who attacks white people more than white people? See, he's trying to allude to this false narrative that white people are being oppressed and they're being victimized. That's a lie. When you look at the stats, when you look at the numbers, white people do more harm to white people than any other race. And truthfully, that's with every race. Every race does more harm to its own race more than any other race.
From the end of Charlie's video. But let's see the case he makes and how he gets to that point. Why is he one of the good ones and deserving to stay in a white nationalist country where they'd only want white people?
Why do we automatically regard this white nationalist position as hateful or extremist when it is arguably neither of those things, right? This is just a natural and understandable reaction to what has been going on. I mean, I can see why some people can take it offensively, right? At the root of it, white nationalism is the idea that America needs to preserve its white Western Christian identity and culture by, among other things, stemming the tide of both legal and illegal immigration into the country so that America remains majority white. And so if you're not white, your gut reaction could be like, hey, white people, America doesn't just belong to you. And I would tend to agree to the extent that that America belongs to the American people, right? And no matter how you feel about it, the American people are people of all colors. But at the same time, like, I kind of get why they would feel this way, you know, because their ancestors did build the country.
So,
oh Lord, y'all, there go that white supremacist lie. That is a lie from the pit of hell. White people didn't build a goddamn thing. They tried and they failed. They didn't have nothing going on in Europe. So they came over here. They took somebody else's country. And then when they tried to build up their own civilization over here, they damn near got wiped out. They started cannibalizing each other. They didn't really see success until they brought the African slaves over here. Because if they built the country, they wouldn't even need the slaves. So, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? That is a white supremacist lie from the pit of hell.
Charlie begins his argument asking, why do people associate white nationalism as hateful or extremist? He then follows up by trying to downplay and justify it. The problem is there's a lot of evidence that demonstrate it is hateful and extremist.
It is hateful. Yes, it is hateful and extremist because White nationalism comes from violence. You think all these white nationalist people, they just gonna get together? All right, we're all us white nationalists. We're just gonna stay over here and let everybody else do their thing. No. Once they get their power up, they're gonna try to oppress everybody else. You see, that's the difference between black people coming together and other brown people coming together, like brown pride and black pride or black power, whatever you. It's not trying to oppress nobody else. It's us trying to do what's best for us, trying to better ourselves. We're not trying to oppress white people. We're not trying to oppress Asian people. We're not trying to oppress brown people. When black people get together and they say black power or get together for black empowerment, we're just trying to do what's best for us and our community. We're not trying to get in nobody else's way. We're not trying to oppress nobody. See, that's the difference between us and them.
You don't have to look that far back to see evidence of this. The text between the young Republicans, talking about executing people in gas chambers, checks both of those boxes.
Damn right. And that's another thing. You know, when other groups get together, for the most part, when you see brown people get together, they don't be sitting around here talking about killing white people and doing all this old kind of crazy shit. When black people get together and talk amongst each other, they don't get together and start talking about killing white people. But can we say the same thing for them?
Hateful and extremist. So, like Charlie's other videos, he's really trying to paint this alternative reality, polish the
Right.
turd, and then while making the case for
It's called being intellectually dishonest.
white nationalism, he tries to talk about limiting mass migration so America remains majority white. And, of course, putting aside the hypocrisy.
Well, then in that case, then he's working towards his own erasure, which makes no sense. Because if they had it their way, they would deport his motherfucking ass too. You hear that, Charlie? These same people that you're trying to pander to, they will deport your ass too. They'll deport your ass first because they can. See, they can't deport us, but they know they could deport you.
Of him not being white, this idea of trying to preserve racial majority crosses over from policy into racial engineering. It's ethno-nationalism. In a nation built on ethics, legitimacy comes from equal rights, not from demographic quotas. And then finally, he finishes it off with the idea that non-whites might be like, hey, that's unfair, but their ancestors did build the country. When they make this claim that we built it, what they're trying to do is mythologize only being white and erasing the indigenous disposition and the coerced labor of enslaved Africans, plus immigrant labor, for example, the Chinese immigrants who built the railroads. And so let's walk this idea out, right? Even if your ancestors built everything, which they didn't, that doesn't give you the right today to boss other citizens around.
And nowadays, they're getting dogged on so hard. In the past few years, anti-white racism and resentment and grievance culture has somehow found its way to the center of the fabric. It became mainstream, I think, during the Obama years and before.
Well, why don't you talk about the Asian hate that was coming from white people? When you look at the damn numbers, and when you look at the facts, most of the Asian hate was coming from white people, sir. Why are you not talking about that? But there again, they blame it on black people. They spent this little narrative that black people was out there harming Asian people, and they wasn't. Now, I'm not saying that black people was innocent. They're probably, you got your 2 to 10% of everything. There are some stupid idiots out there. But for the most part, that was white people, homie. Subjugating your people.
Or at least in the late 90s or the early 2000s, as I recall, it was all about colorblindness, seeing people for the content of their character, not the color of their skin. I think those were the days to live, right? Nobody had a smartphone, and it was the heyday of a harmonious post-racial society. Be that as it may, that you may never fully accomplish that, but it was the closest we've ever gotten. But the American left began singing a different tune in the 2010s, that we must see race. We must see it everywhere. Colorblindness equals white supremacy.
Well, Now that right there, that point right there, I can kind of agree with because that is somewhat true. Because at some point, the left they did start getting a little overboard. They were trying to force everything on you. They were trying to force gender on you. They were trying to force race on you. Hell, even with this past election, they were trying to force Kamala Harris on everybody, trying to push her as this strong black woman, which she wasn't. She was very performative. She was trying to masquerade as a black woman, which she didn't do in the past. She identified as an East Asian Indian woman as late of 2016. But when she got around there, she around here talking about uh cleaning greens in the damn bathtub. Black people don't do no nasty ass shit like that. But I digress.
There's systemic racial oppression going on, and that explains racial disparities we see today. No.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. The first idea I think worth looking at is his claim that back then we judged by character and not color. Everything now is race. And when we dig into these ideas, right, this idea of 90s color blindness often meant not addressing material disparities. Things like
But here's the thing. The people on the right, that's what they talk about, race. That's what they're for. They're all for white people being in power. That's all they talk about is race. That's all they talk about is white people. White people being disenfranchised. The white man is the victim. No, they're not. They're running every damn thing. They're just scared because the birth rates are low.
housing, schooling, and sentencing. Naming race in policy debates isn't this new racism. What it is acknowledging measurable inequalities. And when you start refusing to see race where it actually predicts outcomes, while also trying to dismiss the historic systems of oppression and their outcomes, is nowhere near neutrality. And then he goes on to try to make this case that color blindness equals white supremacy now. And so what we're seeing here is him really embracing the spin of whiteness. It's not a disease that must be eradicated. What is meant there when academics are referencing it is talking about a set of unfair rules and defaults that give white people advantages. And they're talking about systems, not skin. It's the idea of ending unfair rules, not people. And all of this disconnect really has to do, again, with people not understanding the systematic oppression. Laws were put in place that enforced slavery. This was not an option. And even after slavery ended, many laws were in place that prevented true equal rights. And even when those laws were put in place, a lot of discrimination continued.
Facts. Facts. Those are facts. Because you know how when you hear these black conservatives, they always talking about, well, the black family was together in the 1940s and in the 1950s. But yeah, we were still discriminated against. We were still getting our motherfucking heads beat in. You know what I'm saying? That's that intellectual dishonesty.
And so to dismiss all that is true intellectual dishonesty, especially when you're trying to make the case that American society was built by white people, asking for people to take this nuanced look when you refuse to look at the nuanced.
Just totally being dishonest. Talking about white people built this country. That is a lie from the pit of motherfucking hell. I mean, you can easily do a simple Google search and find out that's not true.
Reality right in front of him. I'm sure it gets better though. Let's continue.
And this grievance culture bore some pretty ugly things that are going on today. Open racial hatred against white people. Academics from good universities writing literature on how quote-unquote whiteness, not white supremacy, but whiteness is akin to a disease that must be...
Once again, y'all, during COVID, there was open hatred, racism against Asian people from white people. But he totally ignores that. But, tokenism, one of the first steps in tokenism, right, is to try to throw black people under the bus. It's to lie and throw black people under the bus.
Eradicated. Members of the media and politicians saying things about white people you could never imagine them saying about anyone else.
We should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country.
Not only that, when we start looking at, say, acts of violence, like, I don't know, let's take the last 20 mass shootings. All of those happened in red states. Not only that, but if we look at the states that have the most murders, guess what? All of them are red states. You try to make this case of skewed numbers of how these blue cities are unsafe. No, that has to do with population density. When you actually look at the crime statistics, it does point in the direction of the case that Ilhan Omar is making.
As there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. So no plans to change that language on your website.
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
And so in this clip, we see an accurate description of neighborhoods, the people that live in them, the economic status of those people, and a case that taxes should be equal. And so you're really left asking yourself, Charlie, what the hell are you trying to say? You want rich people to have less taxes, white people to kick out all the immigrants, then you're sitting here like, hey, but can I stay?
Shocking mass brutality. What is it that makes white men so prone to this kind of behavior, and what might be going on today in our country in which people are stoking a sort of victim complex among white men? Whiteness is never seen as a cause in and of itself of these kinds of massacres, of other forms of violence, despite the fact that whiteness is a structure of privilege and it's a structure of power, and a structure that when it feels threatened, lashes out.
And again, we could point to all the crime statistics we discussed ourselves, or even look at those.
There's no anti-white issue here. You are perpetrating anti-humanist issues here.
There's nothing more frightening in America today than an angry white man, says CNN. The U.S. should be...
Yeah, and it says the last few mass shootings, the last 4 of them, within a 2 months, within a 2-month time span. It was goddamn 4 mass shootings within a 2-month time span. All white men. Hell, they got killed. It was a goddamn mass shooting at a damn school. White man.
more fearful of white men, says a congresswoman. And surprise, surprise, the sludge from this rhetorical swamp trickles down and seeps into the minds of the young. And you hear some young people in America nowadays saying some pretty racist things whenever they have a negative experience with a white person.
Charlie, you couldn't show any videos of people making these remarks about white people after having a negative experience with a white person, yet we could play 100 videos about people talking about black fatigue.
Right.
Not to mention, we already countered all your claims before you made them, only adding to the messaging that you were trying to counter. So next time, show video clips of these people making all these arguments and talking bad about white people.
Yeah, man. This guy, he's just a bootlicker. White people out there, man. Check this out. Guys like this, they don't really believe that bullshit that they talking. You see, he understands the grift. He's really just trying to get his bag up. He don't really believe none of that bullshit he's saying. Token guys like this, white people, guys like that don't really don't like y'all like that. I'm being honest with you. And I know white people that's going to look at this video, they're going to disagree with what I'm saying, and that's fine. However, at least I'm going to be honest with you, unlike him. Guys like him, they just trying to get their bag up. They're going to say whatever because they understand the grift. And they're going to tell you whatever leans towards your racism because he knows that he's smarter than most of the people that's listening to his videos. He knows that a lot of people that's going to be looking at, listening to his videos are a bunch of low IQ white ignorants. He knows that. And he's playing off that. He's pretty much exploiting y'all. Dear white people, stop embracing guys like this. He's not here to inform you. He's not here to help you. He's here for himself. He's trying to get his bag up. He's trying to get up there with Candace Owens, Officer Tatum, the Hodge twins, Greg Norman, etc. That's what he's trying to get up there. He's trying to get his bag up. But anyway, y'all, let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. This your boy Mazo Capone. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.